to celebrate the second anniversary of Book Rants. In this episode, I'm going to highlight not the 5 best books that I've reviewed so far, but the 5 books that I've reviewed that I think should be classics, but aren't considered so, or not by enough people. As I list and talk about each one of them in descending order, that is, saving my favorites for last, I will mention the episode in which I originally reviewed them, so if you want to go back and see the larger or the longer review, you can. For those of you who don't know, my name is John Julius Reel. I was born and raised in Staten Island, New York, but I've lived the last 18 years of my life in Seville, Spain. In April of last year, in 2023, my first book in English came out, My Half Orange, A Story of Love and Language in Seville. It's about the most fateful decision in my adult life, moving here, and how that played out. It took me 10 wonderfully intense years to write. It was published by an excellent independent press in Chicago called Tortoise Books. Excellent except for its publicity department. It basically doesn't have one. I started this YouTube channel in part as a way to create a platform, but now I do it as a labor of love and because I think I've got something interesting to say about other people's books. This year, in 2024, I'm going to take the advice of my good friend Gabe, also a writer, who I interviewed in episode 31, and I'm going to start doing more episodes outside, in the streets of my gorgeous adoptive city. All right? That way, if you're bored by the content, you can always be entertained by the background. Anyway, let's get down to business. My 5 should be classic memoirs. Number 5, Factory of Light, Life in an Andalucían Village by Michael Jacobs. It came out in 2004. I first reviewed it in episode 36. It's an expat memoir like mine, part of my Books on Spain series. The thing about expat memoirs is that there's a glut of them in the market. And so you kind of have to make it new. You know, you can't just write about renovating an old abandoned house in the Mediterranean. You can't just write about culture shock and the language barrier and odd neighbors. You've got to do something a lot more than that, okay? Michael Jacobs spent a lot of time here in Seville. He was an art historian and a travel writer. And he eventually moved to this town called Frailes. Frailes is in the province of Jaén. And he integrated with the neighbors there, and he decides to take on as a project renovating this storied, abandoned cinema, local cinema. And he's going to do that by re-releasing this controversial old film, and he's going to invite the actress, this Zaftig Spanish actress who had an interesting career in Hollywood, Sarah Montiel, to the re-release. And in the process of doing this, he kind of resuscitates a town that's been laid low by drought. He actually makes it rain. I shit you not. I mean, the book is magic realist in a way. It makes you believe in miracles. There's a lot going on in the book. A lot of themes, miracles, faith healing, traditional versus modern Spain. There's friendship, there's change. He keeps upping the ante on the narrative, and you wonder, like, how is he going to manage to end this in some sort of controlled and emphatic way? And he does, man. He does. I mean, imagine a book about a foreigner who comes to a foreign land and then embodies the spirit of that land, even more so than the locals. I mean, that's just a classic right there. Number 4, Cardboard Gods, an all-American tale told through baseball cards by Josh Wilker. First published in 2010, and I first reviewed it in episode 20. What are the baseball classics? Well, A False Spring by Pat Jordan, about his gut-wrenching career in the minor leagues. There is The Boys of Summer, Roger Kahn's story about Jackie Robinson's Brooklyn Dodgers. There is The Summer Game by the pristine New Yorker writer Roger Angell. There is Ball 4 by the former Yankee pitcher Jim Bouton, an insider. And there's Moneyball by Michael Lewis, about the business side of baseball. You might put in a couple of books by David Halberstam too, like, for example, Summer of '49. Cardboard God should be on that list. It's the most emotive, self-revelatory, and personal of the books, with the possible exception of A False Spring. But Pat Jordan's book is a bit embittered, and Cardboard Gods is edifying and positive. Basically what he does is he strings together his coming of age story by with meditations on various baseball cards that he collected between 1974 and 1981, which were the same years when I collected baseball cards. Each of these players represents a certain aspect of the human condition or human character that teaches him about himself, teaches him about his limitations, helps him accept himself, guides him into manhood really, and allowing him to continue to dream. Also, it's about what I would call the swan song era of American baseball, in the sense that, there was a time when the World Series was more important in the United States than the NBA Finals and the Super Bowl. That's no longer the case. But in the late 70s and early 80s, that was still the case, and those are the characters, the stars of that era that Josh Wilker is writing about with such sensitivity and knowledge. And with metaphoric power, I would say. It was a weird time in baseball, it was when Doc Ellis came in and pitched a no-hitter when he was high on acid, and Kent DeColvey this dorky-looking dude would come in for the badass Pittsburgh Pirates to finish games. Basically, it's a story about how baseball, not playing it, but being a fan of it, helped a misfit fit in, all right? It is an authentic, personal book that tells the tale of a specific time. Number 3, The Boy Kings of Texas by Domingo Martinez, first published in 2012. I reviewed it in episode 10. It is an immigrant story. It's the story of a marginalized person. It's a family saga. It's a coming of age tale. It's a hilarious and harrowing story of overcoming, all in one. And believe me, Domingo Martinez is not looking for your pity, all right? He's not making himself out as a victim. Basically, it's the story of being raised in the borderlands by this clan of Mexican Americans who raised their children almost like livestock, feeding and housing them for the benefits they could accrue for the family enterprise. Perhaps you've heard of the memoir Educated by Tara Westover. It's got 1,500,000 reviews on Goodreads, or ratings on Goodreads, with an average score of 4.5. Over 200,000 ratings on Amazon. Again, average 4.5. It's basically about being raised off the grid in Idaho in this dysfunctional, abusive family without any formal education, working in her dad's junkyard. But she finally breaks free to graduate magna cum laude from Brigham Young, and then to study abroad in England. It's not bad as a piece of entertainment. It's a kind of Horatio Alger story for women, but I'm sorry to say it, she's like a one-note Johnny. The book has this kind of foreboding, tragic tone all throughout it. She exposes everybody's shit but her own. She never lifts the veil on her own failings, which makes me question the veracity of the book. Look, man, if you want to read a story about somebody surviving a dysfunctional and abusive childhood and adolescence that will also make you laugh out loud and make you self-reflect, then your classic is The Boy Kings of Texas by Domingo Martinez, not Educated by Tara Westover. Number 2, and it could very easily be number 1. I'll explain why when I get to number 1. Days in the Caucasus by Banine. I originally reviewed it in episode 8. It was originally published in 1945 in French, then re-edited by the author in 1985 and wasn't translated to English until 2019 by an excellent translator, Anna Thompson Amadova. In fact, her follow-up memoir, Banine's follow-up memoir, Parisian Days, only came out in English in January of 2023. I will definitely read and review that memoir on Book Rants. Days in the Caucasus takes place before, during, and after the Russian Revolution, which started, I think, in 1917. It's about how the Bolsheviks came into Baku, Azerbaijan, which is where Banine lived in luxury with her family. Her grandfather and father were oil magnates, and it's how the Bolsheviks basically took everything: money, power, property, freedom. Her dad was put in jail, and it's about how She and other resourceful relatives did all they could, despite the circumstances, to maintain their privileges. It's a story about strong, and I would say even cavalier women who did what they wanted without shame. It also draws character so well. Her grandmother, her cousins, her lover, her husband are all drawn unforgettably and sometimes hilariously. Also, it describes a really, really rich inner life that revolves around books. But what makes this book stand out especially to me, especially in these times of canned, formulaic, and I would even say spinsterish virtue, is how non-judgmental and straightforward she is as she describes the world around her as she straddles two cultures, Western culture and Islamic culture. She was immersed in both. She keeps no secrets. Zero about herself and about other people. Just to give you an idea of how matter-of-factly she writes about taboo subjects, okay? Without vulgarity, by the way. Zero vulgarity. When I took the transcript of episode 8, copied and pasted it into ChatGPT so that it could give me a 100-word summary of the video and keyword tags for YouTube, it refused to do it because of the impropriety of the text. Talk about canned, formulaic, and spinsterous virtue. Okay? It is a tell-all tale about a transformative time in Western history that dovetailed with a transformative time in her life, written with just exquisite literary taste and sensibility. Number 1, Low Life, a memoir of jazz, fight fixing, and the mob by Charles Farrell. Days in the Caucasus could also have been number 1. I chose this one as number 1 in part because it's about the United States, and it's about a time that I lived in the United States. Every list is subjective, right? I also chose this as number 1 because it's the most recently published of all the books on this list of memoirs that should be classics. I don't understand, right, how this book, which was published in 2021 by Hamilcar Publications, wasn't a breakout book. I don't understand why the literati of the United States didn't notice this. Why wasn't Charles Farrell lauded as one of the most overlooked creative minds of our time in the world of music, jazz, in the world of literature because of this book, and in the underworld? I mean, it was basically because of his cachet in the underworld as a wheeler dealer and as a fight fixer that this book got the little bit of fanfare that it got when it came out, okay? But nothing from the literary world. And perhaps that's partially because it's literature without the whiff of literature. My favorite kind, personally. And also, as you would expect from somebody who, was raised and was informed and educated on the streets, he just does not tiptoe around subjects that any writer in the establishment would have a tough time being straightforward and direct about. I mean, if the elephant is in the room, Charles Farrell is writing that fucking son of a bitch, okay? I mean, the book is about crime, it's about race, it's about artistic expression, artistic purity. It's about risking it all. It's about losing it all. It's about building oneself back up to risk it all again. It's about prostitution in the full sense of that word. It's about exploitation. It's about success and what success and failure really mean. Basically, it's literature without trying to be literature. And you know what? Anybody who in this day and age, okay, in this time of formulaic, canned, and spinsterous virtue, anybody who writes as honestly as he does about these taboo subjects is a hero in my mind. A hero. Okay? He proves that it's possible to write directly about these things with sensitivity and cultivation. All right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this list of my top 5 should-be classic memoirs. I did it on the way to the gym, so I'm gonna go work out now. Like, I just worked out the mind, now I'm gonna work out the body. Thanks for watching.